What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Bulls Latest. Your host, Matt Johnson, here. Let's dive right into today's show by looking at a guy the Bulls could potentially target as the Josh Giddey talks continue to be ongoing here. I think Quentin Grimes of the Philadelphia 76ers would be a great option for the Bulls. The 25-year-old shooting guard was traded to Philadelphia mid-season this past year. He saw a notable increase in production after the All-Star break, and over those 28 games with the Sixers, he averaged 21.9 points a game to go along with 5.2 rebounds a game and 4.5 assists a game on a .592 true shooting percentage. So this is a guy who stepped into a much bigger role with the injuries of Paul George, Joel Embiid, and Tyrese Maxey there. So as of no surprise, he showed an increased clip of production there. He presents a potential secondary option to bolster the backcourt for the Bulls, and I really like this option because of the fact that it could come at a discount for the Bulls. I don't think he's going to be too expensive at all, and the production is there. So I think this is a guy that you should definitely keep your eye on, especially while we wait and see how the Josh Giddey situation is going to play out. According to Brian Windhorst, and I kind of wanted to get into that next, but according to Brian Windhorst, there is, the Bulls aren't coming close to a deal with Josh Giddey anytime soon, and this comes as no surprise to me. I think especially after that domino fell between the Nuggets and the Brooklyn Nets there with that trade, sending Cam Johnson to Denver, bringing back MPJ. Michael Porter Jr. is a very expensive contract, and Brooklyn's really the one competitive suitor for Josh Giddey. I don't think there's any other market out there that could match what the Bulls are going to pay him. So I know Josh Giddey's probably getting pretty antsy, and his camp wants to see this done. I did see he commented on Trey Jones' Instagram post following his 3-year extension, showing support for his teammate there. So I don't think there's any sour intent behind what he's kind of thinking right now when it comes to Josh Giddey. But he did post an Instagram story of him in a Bulls uniform with the hourglass emoji. So that could signify his anxiousness there in terms of waiting and what's going on here. I want to get this done, but I think the Bulls are playing this smart. I think they definitely learned from the Pat Williams situation where you don't need to jump at a guy and pay him a ton of money when the market for him surrounding the NBA isn't necessarily a very competitive one. And I think the Bulls could get Giddey if they play their cards right at a decent number. The goal would be to keep his annual salary under $30 million a year. I think that'd be optimal because it would allow the Bulls some flexibility in future years here in terms of kind of allocating their money towards some other players. So that's the goal there, and Brian Windhorst kind of confirming that the Bulls aren't close. So this is going to be a waiting game. It remains to be seen how long we're going to wait, but I don't hate this at all, especially if you're someone who is kind of iffy on Josh Giddey. I think he had a very solid season with the Bulls coming over from the Thunder, so it's definitely warranted, and he does deserve a deal. But I'm interested to see how this plays out, and them kind of that you can't just sit on your hands while you wait here. You got to continue to look at different options in terms of targets to kind of bolster this roster. So Quentin Grimes is another name for that there. Diving into some other NBA news that went down, the Los Angeles Lakers have acquired DeAndre Ayton on a 2-year deal. He is going to be making $34 million next year between LA and Portland, so he is a thick contract there when it comes to the earnings for Ayton. I love this move for the Lakers. I think it offers another option with Luka, LeBron, and now a perennial rim running guy in DeAndre Ayton. At his best, DeAndre Ayton's a weapon. He showed that in his early years in Phoenix when they made that run to the NBA Finals. Kind of was in a weird situation. It didn't necessarily seem like he wanted to be in Portland. The passion in his game wasn't quite there, so hopefully he gets that back, being in a situation where the Lakers are trying to win a championship, frankly. So I like this deal a lot for the Lakers. I think it makes a ton of sense. It's a pretty expensive one, but with LeBron's years numbered, LeBron is probably looking at another year or two on the Lakers, and we'll see what happens after that. But I know there's been rumors of him possibly wanting to be traded and wanting to go to Dallas. And I mean, there's a whole bunch of speculation there on what's going on. As of no surprise, LeBron brings a lot of drama every offseason to this point. So that was some notable news there. The Knicks have hired two-time NBA Coach of the Year Mike Brown. I love this move for them. Mike Brown was a four-time champion as a top assistant with Golden State and San Antonio in a couple seasons there. He got fired this past season in December after a 13-18 start to the season in Sacramento. So got off to a slow start. They moved on from him. Sacramento, frankly, was kind of a mess. And for the Bulls, I'm kind of glad that they were able to move a guy like Zach LaVine over to an organization like that who was willing to take him. Obviously, DeMar DeRozan's over there, but Mike Brown, a good fit for the Knicks. I think that's a very solid option for them. That was some notable news there. And the Dallas Mavericks, what an awesome move this is. They are bringing in and finalizing a deal for Frank Vogel to become the lead assistant coach of that team. Now you have Jason Kidd and Frank Vogel on the same staff. That's stellar. I mean, the Mavericks are going to be a force, especially when they get Kyrie back. You talk about a guy like Cooper Flagg coming in and playing under two phenomenal coaches like that. I think this Mavericks team is going to be pretty scary. If you had to ask me, I'd still say the Rockets have a bit of an upper hand, but that's going to be a fun part of the Western Conference to watch next year with between the Lakers, the Mavericks, the Rockets, and then, of course, the Oklahoma City Thunder being stronger than ever moving into next season as well. So a lot of fun news there. In addition to kind of the Josh Giddey Chronicles that we continue to wait to see how that plays out. So just jumping into a scope of how things are going to look for this Bulls team in the coming weeks. Obviously, we got the Summer League kicking off, but it's going to be a waiting game now, especially with Brooklyn acquiring Michael Porter Jr. in that deal. There's going to be no rush for the Bulls to get a deal done, as Brian Windhorst again reported on that. I like that element to this, that the Bulls are going to wait to make a decision in terms of what the Josh Giddey future is going to look like. I don't expect a ton of activity from the Bulls in terms of bringing guys in and adding talent. There's going to be opportunities to bolster your roster with role players, and Quentin Grimes is a perfect example of that, but nothing splashy for this team. I don't expect coming up here. It's more of the movement, that you're going to want to keep an eye out for on guys like Ayo Dosunmu, Kobe White, and Nikola Vucevic. Those are the three big pieces. It'll be interesting to see how they kind of navigate that. It has been reported, though, I thought it was interesting, the Warriors appear to have moved away from past trade interest they previously registered in Nikola Vucevic. So I heard Al Horford come up as a name the Warriors were potentially shifting to interest in. So if you're the Bulls, you want to kind of capitalize on an opportunity to send Nikola Vucevic to a market that really wants him. I think Boston is, I talked about Anthony Simons, but Boston seems like a team who has kind of jumped ahead of Golden State in terms of wanting Nikola Vucevic. So should be interesting. It's not going to be, again, the flashiest of off seasons for the Bulls. I do like the two young guys they added in the draft. Super excited to see Olbrich and Asenge play in the Summer League. That's coming up here. So other than that, though, it's going to be a pretty light couple weeks for the Bulls in moves. Obviously, we're going to be waiting to see what happens with Josh Giddey. So, again, wanted to thank you guys for joining me on another episode of Bulls Latest today. If you have anything you want to see the Bulls do you like a guy like Quentin Grimes coming in? Do you want to see Josh Giddey signed sooner rather than later, or are you okay with them waiting? Let me know in the comments. And then anything else Chicago Bulls related, let's talk about it. Let's see what the Bulls faithful wants. And again, thank you guys for your support on this show, and we will see you next time.